All right, good afternoon, everybody. We are welcome to today's webinar in preparation for the deadline of the Manifesto Innovation Challenge that has been ongoing. We're hoping to spend the next 75 minutes together with colleague speakers lined up to help us appreciate some other perspectives to this challenge, in addition to the earlier session we had, the info session. So my name is Kirchuffs Atengble, and I am founding director for PACKSAfrica and chair for the African Evidence Network, representing the good people of West Africa. So for today's session, just a few housekeeping notes to have in mind. Everybody on the call has opportunity to share their perspectives, in addition to what the speakers will be sharing with us, and but there will be a specific moment for the audience to make these inputs. The session is being recorded, and so we should take note of that. If we are invited to speak, we would love to know who is behind the microphone. So you'd want to put your video on, your camera on, and your microphone on as you speak. But once you're done, we expect that all cameras and microphones will be off, so that the speakers at any point in time can have the opportunity. We expect also to speak when there is the least disruption in terms of noise in your background. Our program person, Charity Chisoro, will be around coordinating any technical issues. So if you have any difficulty to open your mic or to open your video, or maybe send a message across, you can always message her. So just a bit of information about the manifesto itself. It was drafted in 2020 as part of an evidence event, Evidence 2020 online, by a dedicated working group, and many members of the network contributed to that. It represents a declaration by all of us, right? I mean, all of us members of the African Evidence Network who are working within this evidence ecosystem, right? And indicating what we want to do, what the kind of capacity development we practice and we want to continue practicing. It also represents an African-led approach, because it was developed by us and has been updated over time by us. So it's our own approach to enhancing capacities for evidence-informed decision-making in Africa. It serves as a resource also for inspiration and for our engagement of different actors on the continent. It also challenges some views, right? Dominant views, mainstream views that have remained for capacity development on the continent. And there's a link there if you intend having a look at it, if you have not done so already. For today's session, we will be looking at other alternate perspectives complementing our celebration of innovation and inclusivity within the African evidence ecosystem. And we will be beginning with we would start with some conversation, some inspiration from our speakers. And then we expect that these ideas, these perspectives by the speakers will inspire your own contribution as an audience. We will have a specific session dedicated to the Francophone community. Interestingly, this very session, we have a good blend of Francophone and Anglophone speakers. So we have that dedicated inclusion session that will help the different audience appreciate contributions from these different speakers. The discussions doesn't end here, but that we will continue through this session, and then afterwards sharing other ideas, complementary, even contesting ideas in other forums that will be provided. This is also a call to action. All right, we are challenging others to help us circulate the messaging on this challenge. We are hoping to showcase the different works that our different diverse members have been doing with respect to use of the manifesto and its principles, the ideas that it inspires amongst us as members. So let's circulate these as much as possible. So talk about the interactive sessions. We will have opportunity as an audience to contribute to the conversation. So we have these two questions mainly for you to think through. One is, how do we define efficiency and innovation in our contexts? So in our respective contexts as organizations, as individuals working in this space, how do we define efficiency and innovation? Does it complement what may have been shared by the speakers, or it differs from those? And then the second one is, what practices could inspire your own submission, right? So we expect you to share these perspectives in whichever languages that you have, most especially either in English or in French. And our audience, our speakers will do well to respond to those if it may be directed at them. So to moderate our session, as I will be handing over to him shortly, we have Dr. Patrick Okwen, who is the team lead at eBASE Africa, that's Effective Basic Services Africa. And he will be handling the session for us today, helping our speakers, kind of drawing out from them what we want to hear. And so, Patrick, you want to take over from now?
Thank you.
When you are ready, just let me know, and then I can.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Kirchuffs. Thank you very much for opening the discussion. So I'm Patrick Okwen, and as Kirchuffs said, I'm team lead at eBASE, based in Cameroon, but we work across quite a number of countries in Africa. And we've been on this journey of the manifesto, exploiting the manifesto. I think we have really gained a lot. And for those who have not really tapped into the manifesto, understanding the different principles of the manifesto, understanding the different stakeholders within the ecosystem, I would strongly advise that you spend quite a lot of time looking at it and understanding how it could contribute to your work, because this has greatly contributed to the work that we do at eBASE, giving us, like, acting as a compass as per where we are going. So today we have 4 speakers, 3 who will be with us, and then 1 that will join us by video. So James, Yolande, Ayafor, and Ruth. We also have a Francophone perspective that's going to be coming from Merveille. So to kick off with immediately, as I see that we are almost 3 minutes behind time, we want to start with some sparks for innovation, and we are going to have 4 perspectives. There will be 4 speakers who will have 5 minutes each to share 1 practice, 1 idea, or 1 lesson that embodies innovation in their context. And the guiding theme will be what small change created a big impact in your ecosystem. Remember, you have just 5 minutes. I'll also say this in French. En fait, On va commencer avec l'étincelle d'innovation, avec 4 perspectives. Et ces 4 perspectives sera de nos 4 locuteurs. Donc, c'est-à-dire que James, Yolande, Ayafor et Ruth, qui sera en ligne. Et l'idée, c'est pour que nos délégués peuvent partager un cas pratique ou bien une idée ou bien un enseignement, une leçon qui incarne l'innovation dans leur contexte. Et le thème sera quel petit changement a eu un impact majeur dans votre écosystème. Et on va commencer avec James et puis Yolande. Non, on va commencer avec la vidéo de Ruth. Et puis après ça, on aura James, Yolande et puis Ayafor. I hope I got the order correct, Kirchuffs and Charity. So this is over to you to maybe start with the video. Okay, Ruth is there.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to record my presentation to contribute to the Manifesto Innovation Challenge today. And I'm sorry not to be able to join you in person. My name's Ruth Stewart. I'm the former head of the Africa Evidence Network, and I now work as the director of the Alliance for Living Evidence, known as ALIVE. Now, the purpose of my presentation today, the request that has come to me, is to share with you one practice or institutional shift that demonstrates how resourcefulness, principled leadership, and inclusivity can create meaningful impact across Africa's evidence ecosystem. And the innovation that I'd like to share with you is both new and as old as the hills. And it is around partnerships, really building authentic partnerships. Many of us talk about partnership working in teams, working collaboration, but I believe it's actually quite innovative to really think about how to build authentic partnerships. Now, to tell you a little bit of a story about this and some of my history, when I got my degree, when I first started working in the evidence field, I really thought I could make a difference by striving myself, by being clever, by thinking about producing really great evidence, by encouraging people to use it, etc. But the truth is that this was an uphill battle in many, many ways. And it was only when I began to think about the innovation of partnership and what this might mean that my work became more and more impactful. And this is what I want to share with you today. So I started working with various colleagues from across the continent, even before we formed the Africa Evidence Network. And as that network began to innovate, to really bring in strong leadership from across the continent and think about inclusion, I've added an extraordinary collection of amazing people from across the continent and in my new role with ALIVE, increasingly around the world, through teamwork, leadership, innovation, building trust, building really inclusive and diverse networks across the research sector, across the policy and practice sector, and even more in learning relationships, and in really thinking about how we can tackle problems together. And through this, we've increasingly built partnerships that have a real impact, not just on my work and the work of those who I'm partnering with, but I believe across the African ecosystem as well. So through this, I've really learned that it's not just about partnership. It's not just about signing a funding proposal that we're going to work together across a continent, or write a paper together, or work on a very specific and time-bound thing. It's something much more than that. It's about building partnerships that are really authentic, that are based on a desire to have an impact, and that impact focus is really what's driven these kinds of innovations over time and across different sectors and different ways of working. So these partnerships need to be authentic. They need to be impact focused. They need to be about learning and sharing together. Partnerships have never been about have one person having the answer. It's about collective answers and collective working. And that's been really important, I believe, for my work and for the African ecosystem. It's also been about long-lasting relationships. And some of these images that I'm sharing with you today are about working relationships and partnerships that span, some maybe only 6 months or so, but some that span 6 years or even 26 years, and that's been really important. And then I just add that these are partnerships that are innovative. They don't stand still. They're looking for solutions. They're looking for shared solutions and better solutions over time. So this is the innovation that I really want to share with you, and show that it's really had an impact not just on me and my work, but I believe the continent and how the continent works as well. Just to share a little bit about why I believe this matters. This is coming together in my current work as director of Alive in what we're calling the Alive approach. But many of you will recognize pieces of this approach and work that we've been doing over many, many years. So it really is around having a cycle, an integrated process, rather than thinking, well, the evidence is set in stone and the methods are set in stone. We have to work out how to use that evidence better. Or policy is set in stone and we need to think about how to produce better research. It's really about using partnership approaches to think about how we can build a system that is better fit for purpose and that can really drive impact. So it's around collaborative partnerships of decision makers who are facilitated to engage and understand and align. It's around building evidence banks of data and analysis that really respond to those needs of decision makers, and to make sure that that evidence is connected and plugged into the real world, but also useful with decision makers at the center. And that those evidence banks are dynamic. So not just up to date in terms of the latest evidence, but also evolving and responding as needs change amongst decision makers and needs across the continent more broadly. And then building in an efficiency, because partnership work, I believe, it takes time and effort, but it's also about having an impact that's greater than the sum of its parts. And as we build these evidence banks and as we facilitate their use, we can really drive some efficiency, collaboration that cuts waste to ensure that decision makers are served from evidence that's drawn from shared data banks and shared analysis. And that by doing this, we can have an evidence system that's much more effective in delivering evidence quickly to where it's needed and to have a real impact in doing so. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this innovation with you today, and I wish you the best for the rest of your discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much there, Ruth. That was quite inspiring. And of course, as I put in the chat, I was excited to see myself in the pictures. I hope some of you also saw yourself in some of the pictures. And I think one key point that I picked from there is, how do we plug in these learnings into real life, into our work? It's something we should remember as we move forward. So we will now move on to James to share with us his insights, specifically on what small change created a big impact in your ecosystem. James, over.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And maybe just to start off by saying that I like the pace that has been set by Ruth, because partnerships is where the heart of making a change starts from. So I'm James Ngerere. I work with Sightsavers. I'm in evidence uptake and learning, which is a part of a team that is within the Evidence Research and Innovations Directorate. And this is at Sightsavers, and at Sightsavers, we are all about equity and inclusion. And so I'll take a few minutes just to share how we used an evidence uptake and learning strategy, how we implemented this to make a difference in our ecosystem. I don't know if the slides are there, but even if not, then we can continue. So just to give a brief description of what I mean by our ecosystem, is that Sightsavers works in more than 30 countries in Africa and Asia, with the bulk of these countries being in Africa. And so what we really work and bank on is the partnerships that we have with our stakeholders, and our stakeholders mainly being governments. We also have the development partners that we work with, and also the communities in which we serve. And so how the evidence uptake and learning strategy implementation fits within the Africa Evidence Network Manifesto is that we have an approach that leads to inclusive generation of evidence and capacity building. And so back to, again, the context is that through what we do is that we have learning and innovation as being central to the quality of what we deliver. And so one of the ways in which, not one of the ways, but the ways in which we mainly generate our evidence is through research and also programs. And so being evidence producers, then it means it's really necessary for us to ensure that evidence gets to the people who need to use it. And this is both internally and externally. So to enhance evidence uptake, we developed systems that help us to capture, to communicate, and to use evidence. And so the strategy has tools that we use to capture evidence, that is the documentation of the evidence generation cascade, starting all the way from when there is an idea to how the findings are eventually used. And so based on this, internally, we have tools that help us to be able to track, and these are mainly used by our evidence producers in the research team. And so these tools help us to track the research processes, like I've mentioned, from when we have an idea all through the implementation up to when we are using the findings. And then for the rest of our staff internally, we have dashboards that share these ideas. And externally, the evidence that we produce, then we are able to share in conferences, but also that we have a dedicated research website where people can interact with the evidence that we produce. And moving on to the next slide so that I can just give this in context. And I'm going to share two studies that we have done and how these have then contributed to making a difference. And the first one is a study that we call INVEST, which is inclusion in the evidence ecosystem. And it's a case study that was looking at the development of Persons with Disabilities Act in Kenya and how evidence was used. So the generation of evidence, looking at the use of evidence in policy making. And this used a participatory research implementation process, which throughout the implementation has helped us to build the capacity of the stakeholders that we have engaged in. We had a very strong steering committee, which was also inclusive of persons with disabilities. And through the research implementation process, we have been able to build their capacity to better understand the forms of evidence that were used, what was used and what was not used, and how this can also change even as we look towards the implementation of this act. And we also intend to use these findings to improve practices in other similar settings within Africa. Then we also have a study that was conducted in Cameroon, the Safely at School study in Sierra Leone. And this one was investigating sexual and gender-based violence among students with disabilities. And the inclusive implementation helped us to work with young researchers with disabilities and also the Ministry of Education. And through this, we were able to develop guidelines for safeguarding, because safeguarding came out as a major issue as we were implementing the study. And so we were able to use the learnings during the implementation to develop safeguarding guidance for implementation of research internally. And externally, these findings were used in the development of policies that were in process. And so because of working with the Ministry of Education, the officials picked up on these findings and used them to inform the policy that they were developing. So the last slide just shares our research center page. And even for this page, we have the QR codes, which you can get more information. Thank you very much. And back to you, Patrick. Sorry for going over a minute.
Thank you, James. It's okay. I think that was very interesting. And I was trying to put in perspective, if we imagine how much evidence could support or improve the effectiveness of development programs or practice or policy. I've just put some statistics there on the work that Sightsavers is doing. So this could be a very interesting case study to demonstrate how the manifesto is supporting to a bigger picture of treating disease for 1.8 billion people, or for providing 1.8 billion treatments, eye operations, disease elimination, spectacles and screening, and then disability support. So there's a huge lot that we can do if we can plug in to the work that development agencies are doing. So thank you very much, James. I'm going to move on to let me see, next on the list, which is Yolande. Et Yolande, je vous invite pour nous dire un peu quel petit changement a eu un impact majeur dans votre écosystème. And please feel free to speak in either French or English. The advantage we have coming from Cameroon is the fact that we can speak in French and English, we can understand French and English, and I think our in-laws, we are beginning to extend that advantage to our in-laws. I think our chairperson knows exactly what I'm talking about. So thank you, and over to you, Yolande.
Merci, Patrick. La question de prise de décision basée sur les données en Afrique est plus abordée. La question, et grâce à cette question, nous avons une essence de multiples d'autres questions qui sont très passionnantes, parmi lesquelles je choisis aujourd'hui de réfléchir sur une très importante. À qui est destinées réellement les données que nous produisons dans la recherche scientifique? Pour commencer, je suis Yolande Boudan, jeune et émergente, conteuse et chercheuse à eBASE et je suis camerounaise. Vous savez, dans la question de mise en œuvre des données probantes, de plus rapprocher à notre identité, à notre culture et à nos traditions. Et surtout qui pourrait être contextualisé et adaptable à nos différentes langues locales. En Afrique, nous avons une panoplie de langues locales et c'est un avantage pour nous. Comme le dit consciencieusement le proverbe africain, si on ne sait pas où on va, on peut au moins regarder en arrière pour voir d'où on vient. C'est ce trésor que l'Afrique a, du fait d'avoir une culture très variée. Et c'est une innovation dans l'écosystème de la recherche, de l'utilisation des données probantes, comme le préconise le manifeste de l'African Evidence Network. À eBASE, nous avons développé au vent qui se veut systématique, rigoureuse et africanisée. Je parle comme ça du Toride. Toride, cette approche qui puise son origine même dans la connaissance et la culture africaine pour conduire à une méthode qui puisse disséminer les données probantes de nos jours en cette ère où la connaissance est de plus en plus un avantage pour l'Afrique parce qu'elle a différentes manières de communiquer qui étaient anciennes mais qui pourraient être véritablement exploitables. La culture, l'avantage que nous avons en Afrique avec la culture, c'est que nous avons une manière d'enseigner, une manière de comprendre. Et le véritable challenge de l'Afrique actuellement, selon moi, est que nous voulons apprendre avec des emprunts, avec des méthodes qui viennent d'ailleurs, avec des exercices qui nous est proposés par l'extérieur sans tenir compte de notre contexte de vie, de notre écosystème. Et si on prenait la connaissance globale que nous avons, nous utilisons notre culture, ensemble, nous faisons une fusion, nous pouvons ressortir de là un héritage. Parce que innover n'est pas seulement inventer quelque chose de nouveau. Pour moi, innover est plus comme repenser quelque chose qui a déjà existé, redéfinir notre identité ou mieux encore, réinventer notre héritage pour obtenir de là une méthode assez structurée, mais qui répond à notre contexte de vie et qui pourrait être mieux compris par nous, par nos communautés, parce que, comme j'ai demandé au départ, les premiers réels bénéficiaires de la connaissance que nous avons dans les données probantes qui émanent des recherches, c'est la communauté. Et si nous voulons participer et impacter cette communauté pour un développement, il est essentiel de pouvoir parler en leur termes, de pouvoir leur parler, de pouvoir leur toucher leur sens de compréhension, quelque chose qui pourrait les motiver de manière efficace et significative. D'où les méthodes nous avons besoin des méthodes qui sont de plus en plus culturellement significatives. Je pourrais m'étaler sur la question parce que nous avons un paquet de cas d'études que nous avons menés avec l'autorité, mais compte tenu du temps qui m'est accordé, je vous laisse avec cette réflexion afin qu'ensemble nous créons un écosystème, une petite idée pour un grand changement. Je dirais que avec l'innovation, nous devons repenser à faire un retour en arrière pour voir notre source, nos origines, notre culture. Comme ça, nous pouvons nous projeter un peu plus loin, comme nous le faisons avec l'autorité. Et là, nous pouvons construire cet écosystème de données probantes contextualisé pour l'Afrique, contextualisé pour notre compréhension, pour nous, Africains. Comme ce proverbe africain qui dit, je vous laisse la réflexion, l'arbre qui invente de nouvelles branches n'oublie jamais ses racines. Parce que innover n'est pas effacer ce qui a été fait en amont. Innover n'est pas oublier ce qui s'est passé. Innover est respecter et comprendre les traditions et les travaux, les savoirs que nous ont laissés nos ancêtres, et nous pouvons avoir quelque chose de mieux au lieu de nous effacer. Parce que si nous parlons d'innover en comptant sur la connaissance venue d'ailleurs, nous effaçons notre connaissance, nous effaçons notre identité. Et ce n'est pas, pour moi, ce serait pas idéal de se projeter dans un monde si on ne se connaît pas soi-même. Voilà, en gros, ce que je peux partager avec vous, mais vraiment, réfléchissez à ceci. Et si notre culture est la meilleure façon pour nous d'impacter le monde, et si notre identité, et si paraître nous-mêmes est la meilleure manière que nous avons d'impacter le monde, est la meilleure manière que nous avons de construire un écosystème où nous avons notre partition réelle, où nous avons un morceau de nous-mêmes. Ça, c'est une réflexion que nous pouvons avoir ensemble, et toutes les questions à propos de cela pourraient être laissées dans le chat. Thank you so much for this, and over.
Thank you, Yolande. Thank you, Yolande. We are running above our time. So we are already 4 minutes above time. Thank you very much. And I think just to quickly say that there is a philosophy, an African philosophy similar to Ubuntu, but this time coming from Ghana, called Sankofa, which is what Yolande, it actually, when you look at what Yolande is talking about, let's go back to what we left behind with pride, because that's where our success may lie. So I think that's in essence, that philosophy, just like Ubuntu, is gaining space in the Made in Africa principles. So we'll quickly jump onto Ayafor to share with us his own insights. Ayafor, over to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, greetings again once more to us all. It's a great pleasure to share this EN Manifesto experience with you. I will be starting my presentation with a storytelling on the importance of community diagnosis in the evidence ecosystem, and in Toride, how it has transformed our Toride approach at eBASE Africa. So this story is about Patangam. Patangam was a very popular tapper in his community, and he's tapping the palm wine that people take from him was acting like a medicine to the people of his community. But when Patangang died, his only son that he had was in town for about 20 years. And the ancestors from the village has to call him to come back to that village and continue tapping that wine and give it to the people in the community to heal them. But when the son came back to the community and he was trying to tap, he did not really know how. His palm wine was not coming out much, and that was because he has not integrated himself in the community for the community members to tell him the secret that they are using in having enough palm wine to share for the whole community. So after trying so many ways and asking questions and all that, the people still did not tell him the secret of their palm wine tapping until the son of Patanga was forced to actually involve himself in the community, to participate with the community, follow them in their cultural activities, follow them to farm, follow them in other activities. That is when he gets to learn that no, the palm wine for their village comes out very early in the morning. But this is an information that for the past 10 months that he has been in the village, these people refuse to give him that information. So when he learned that, when they finally learned that a good time to tap the palm wine is very early in the morning, that is when he pick up his calabash and goes into the forest and starts tapping. And that time his palm wine starts coming much. Shows that he has actually participated in the community, and the deep things and the cultural things that sustain that community was revealed to him. And this actually has a great relationship with with the AEN Manifesto, which deals with equity, co-creation, decolonization, and community-centered knowledge. And this actually is because when this son actually get into the community, he started co-creating with the community. And co-creation is a process. It's not just something that is stagnant. And in that process, he gets to learn so many other things. And also, this is something that we do, and that is something that I to read the approach, where we make sure that we go into the community and we try to learn how they are going to tell their stories and to understand the deep things about the community. So when we did our storytelling in Lenzi, one of the storytellers come and told us that no, we tell them stories about the importance of mosquito net, but they need mosquito nets. And that was when we discovered that no, that means we have not touched the problem of the community. And it was from there that we started asking, how can we get to the problem of the community? And that was when community diagnosis came up as one of the stages of the method that we use at Toride. And since then, we have been using this community diagnosis in so many other different projects. And also we also use this community diagnosis even in our projects, in the opening ceremonies, that we have to make sure we invite hosts, go to the host country, and we deal with storytellers from that community, because those are the people that have the true information about the experiences of their community. So before we go to tell a story in a particular place, we always make sure that we integrate these community members, and we try to have a participatory observation and research with them to know more about their background and their culture and their history, and how their spiritual practices is influencing both their behavior change approaches. So when we get to learn all these things now, that is when we come back now and we impact them back. We bring back the original information that is needed for the community. And this community diagnosis has also really helped also because in the different pillars of our Toride, like the opening of hearts, you need to connect with people for them to open their hearts to you. You see, it also connects with our Deftere, because in order to get people's story, you need to have them make them to understand you and to know that you are part of the story that they are telling you, because if they see you as an external object from the story they are telling you, they will still not always tell you the deep things about their experiences or the story that you really need to know to do the research that you need to do with them. Yeah, man. So that is our Lenzi experience and how we develop community diagnosis that has been flowing through our other projects. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ayafor there, and you were very good on your timing. Now, I have also just shared with you the principles of the manifesto, the principles within the manifesto. You would see that in these discussions that we have had from Ruth, from Boudan, from Ayafor, from James, they have all captured at least one of these principles. And it's something that we want everyone who is here, we have 33 participants here right now, to actively think about how can we plug in these principles to the work that we are doing? How can we fall back to what we left behind to move forward? How can we make sure that local talents are being used and are being exported? And that leads us to the next point of discussion, which is on the multilingual reflection, the dialogues, the French language reflection by Francophone members. We'll also have an English summary, and particularly to highlight the fact that the work that Merveille has been doing has expanded beyond Africa. So one of the principles of the manifesto is to build on or to tap on local talent. So we find a situation where Merveille has not just tapped into this local talent, but she's been able to export this talent to support Cochrane France in the work that they do in evidence. And a lot of the groundbreaking work that has been done in the French sector has come from the work that she has been leading at eBASE. So with this, I will hand over to Merveille. Merveille, on aimerait avoir une réflexion en français par vous, comme un membre francophone, avec un résumé en anglais. En fait, il faut qu'on renforce la participation bilingue et l'inclusivité dans la communauté de Africa Evidence Network. Donc, à vous maintenant, Merveille.
Ok. Merci Patrick et une fois de plus, bonjour à tous. C'est un réel plaisir pour moi de prendre la parole en ce moment afin de parler, d'intervenir pour le côté des francophones. Ce que j'aimerais soulever tout d'abord, c'est de dire que ce manifesto bilingue n'est pas juste un léger détail. Cela permet aussi de respecter un principe du manifesto qui se veut inclusif de façon linguistique, afin que toutes les innovations, tout le travail abattu dans notre écosystème soit reconnu et partagé entre nous dans notre écosystème. Bon, premièrement, pour revenir sur les interventions où Ruth, Yolande, Lionel et James ont présenté les innovations qui se font dans leurs différentes sociétés ou bien dans leurs différentes organisations. Ruth nous a d'abord parlé premièrement du partenariat ne s'agit pas simplement d'un simple partenariat que nous contractons avec quelqu'un, mais d'un partenariat qui se veut authentique et qui a une vision d'impacter, qui a également une vision d'avoir non seulement d'impacter, mais également d'innover, de toucher des sociétés et d'être durable. Et James nous a parlé des différents outils qu'ils ont développés afin que l'utilisation des données probantes puisse être effective dans leurs différents écosystèmes, que ce soit interne comme externe. Et Yolande nous a brièvement encore parlé du Toride, cette approche qui permet de disséminer les différentes résultats de recherche, les données probantes auprès des communautés qui sont en fait les bénéficiaires des données que nous produisons. Et Ayafor a souligné l'importance du diagnostic communautaire avant l'implémentation d'une étude, bien l'implémentation d'un storytelling. qui est assez très important. Il faudrait connaître d'abord le véritable problème d'une communauté avant d'apporter une certaine solution. Ainsi dit, pour moi, l'innovation africaine est souvent assez discrète, mais elle est également puissante parce que nos petites actions que nous menons, cela fait toute une différence. Cela nous rappelle que la transformation doit être durable. Et cela commence souvent par des petits échecs dans la communauté à travers des solutions simples, mais qui est adaptée à nos problèmes. Bon, j'aimerais que nous tous, nous ayons un peu en image un bol de salade. Et je crois que la plupart d'entre nous, nous aimons la salade. Et dans ce bol de salade, on remarque premièrement que chaque ingrédient garde sa propre identité. La tomate reste la tomate. La laitue reste la laitue, le concombre reste le concombre. Je ne sais pas quoi d'autre vous mettez dans votre salade, mais chacun garde son identité. Mais ensemble, tous ces différents ingrédients créent quelque chose de plus riche, de plus vraiment appétissant pour nos papilles et plus intéressant également. C'est ainsi que pour moi se présente l'innovation au sein du manifesto. Parce que ça en prend en compte les différentes langues, les différentes expériences, les différents contextes de chaque membre afin de promouvoir l'utilisation de nos programmes dans nos différents contextes. Donc, pour moi, l'innovation ne doit pas chercher à être uniformisé, c'est-à-dire parce que Yolande a une innovation dans son contexte, cela fera en sorte que je dois absolument utiliser l'innovation dans mon contexte, même si cela ne semble pas être la bonne innovation. Donc, chaque innovation doit essayer d'être contextualisée selon le contexte. Et pour moi, il est aussi question de nous rappeler que le manifesto, en fait, est l'ensemble de la production de connaissances que nous avons établie, de notre collaboration et ainsi de notre inclusivité. Donc, la voix de tout un chacun, chaque contexte a de la valeur et chaque expérience peut enrichir la compréhension collective. C'est pourquoi j'aimerais encourager vivement chacun d'entre nous à partager ses expériences, partager ses solutions, ses innovations, afin que cela peut aider une autre personne dans son contexte. Comme Patrick l'a dit, on peut dire que je suis un produit, je ne veux pas dire un produit, mais un résultat de le partage de connaissances, car je suis entrée dans l'utilisation des données probantes à travers une formation qui a été donnée de façon volontaire par EN. Et là, j'ai pu mieux apprendre, avoir plus de connaissances sur ce qu'est l'EIDM, comment sont les définitions, comment le mettre de façon pratique dans mon contexte. Et étant donc francophone, j'ai opté plus pour la dissémination et le partage des connaissances du côté francophone. Donc, je me suis mis en marche pour travailler avec plusieurs organisations comme Cochrane France, Gala International Network, où j'ai participé de façon volontaire à la traduction des résultats de recherche pour que cela puisse être disséminé dans le côté des pays francophones. En fait, cela semble un peu tout petit, mais ceci est en quelque sorte le beau tomate que je suis en train de découper dans la salade qui fera tout à la fin un très beau et bon bol de salade. Donc, merci Patrick et au revoir. Thank you everyone.
Thank you very much, Merveille, for putting that really well. I'll just give a quick summary. So speakers have emphasized building African-centered evidence ecosystems that are aligned with the AEM Manifesto principles. James highlighted structured systems to track and share for research impact. To share research for impact is within a development agency, a huge development agency for that matter. Yolande also stressed the culturally grounded, contextualized innovation that is rooted in local identity and languages, which really depicts not just the AEN Manifesto principles, but also a Made in Africa principle, which is known as Sankofa. Ayafor demonstrated that community integration and co-creation are essential for meaningful solutions through community diagnosis. And Ruth highlighted the importance of plugging in what we are capturing from the manifesto in the daily work that we do. Merveille also rounded up by emphasizing linguistic inclusivity and authentic partnerships that ensure that diverse voices can contribute to sustainable, equitable, and locally driven innovations. And with this, I would open the floor for participants. So I've put something in the chat. It's an interactive chat reflection where we will collect responses on efficiency and innovations. You are invited to reflect on two guiding questions. How do we define efficiency and innovation in our context? Please just say there's no right or wrong answer. And then also, what practices could inspire your submission? So these questions are for us to try to see. You can post in French or in English. Les deux questions sont: comment définissons-nous l'efficacité et l'innovation dans nos contextes? Et quelles pratiques pourraient inspirer votre soumission? Please just type in your answers. The only right answer is the answer that you give, and the only wrong answer is the answer that is not given. So let's please push in our responses. I'm hoping to see lots of responses in the chat. I'm not seeing it yet. So Charity, let's also be sure that everyone can type in the chat. Two questions are: how do we define efficiency and innovation? You can raise your hand to speak, or you add your answers in the chat. Thanks, James. I see your answer in the chat. Maureen, Christian, Manka, Julius, please, we want to hear comments. There are 34 of us in the. We are going to have a hard stop in about 5 minutes. So you want your voice to be heard. You want these African voices. So please type in. Myra, Jane, Claude, Jerusha, Marian, Alan, Ellis, Delma, Veronica, Belinda, Sanjo. We need to hear all your voices. Ibene, Ronald.
There's a comment in the chat, Patrick, from Christian Mansila.
Okay. So Christian says, I'd be interested to hear how the efficiency and innovation could be contested with the massive use of AI chatbots. That's a good one. Yes. It's not just thinking about efficiency and innovation, but how can we contest this, especially with the coming of AI chatbots. So there's a lot that we can capture here. That is noted. We need the chats, we need the comments coming in. So yeah, so very useful. Christian has helped out a little bit with some guiding definitions. So efficiency, producing a high quality evidence in less amount of time and resources, and innovations, trying and testing new ways to be more efficient and equitable. Berenice, Thelma, I know you guys are doing some work on using AI. So if you do not share your experiences or your ideas or your concepts, you will not be doing justice to Africa. So Damaris also says efficiency is not just about doing things faster or cheaper. It's about using limited resources in ways that still reach right people and create meaningful change. So Damaris, it could be interesting to let us know how this applies in your context as well. So Belinda also says efficiency means generating credible evidence with the limited resources available and ensuring that it's closely aligned with policy and decision-making cycles. Excellent one there, Belinda. Linking this to policy and decision-making is a huge challenge that we are having. And I know that there should be some people here who are working on the politics of evidence use. Why do policymakers, what is in there for policymakers to want to use best available evidence? Yes, I see that more discussions are coming in, exciting. So Ronald says, besides storytelling, what other indigenous knowledge systems and models can we use to make this a reality? Good, excellent. How can we go back to what we left behind? How can we bring Sankofa to life across what we do in Africa? So it's something to be thinking about. I mean, there's been some arguments that one of the reasons why development does not work in Africa is because we have left behind what we could use for development, and we are looking for what the colonialists brought, and it's time for us to go back. So yeah. So Manka says innovation is a smarter way of doing something people already do. Wow, that's a good one. James Julius says efficiency is being apt at what you do and doing it well. Good one. James, innovation, finding a new approach to maximize on resources. We have to do better and better. Good. Alang says, I would define efficiency as not just ensuring that interventions work, but that they reach the right persons globally. Great. And I like the aspect of globally there. Irene has added that l'efficacité, c'est bien faire ce qui existe déjà. L'innovation, c'est faire autrement ou créer du nouveau. Le succès durable, c'est combiner les deux intelligemment. Excellent connection of the two, efficacy and innovation, and how this can lead to sustainability. Innovation is coming up with new, better ways of doing things, challenging the status quo. Good. Innovation, finding new and better ways of doing things which speaks to the needs of the target community. So innovation is not useful unless it's useful to the context. That's a good way of looking at it, Julius. Innovation should be able to solve problems in your context. And Kemayu says, dans les contextes de développement, l'efficacité renvoie à la capacité d'un projet à atteindre ses objectifs avec une utilisation optimale des ressources, tandis que l'innovation désigne l'introduction des solutions adaptées. Wow, so these are really great contributions that are coming in from everyone. And I believe that even looking at this, I'm seeing a lot of evidence leaders. I hope you guys are applying for the Africa Evidence Leadership Awards. I see very useful discussions here. Charity, there are lots of people we can nominate moving forward. I see a lot of great thinking. Please feel free to keep putting whatever you want to put in the chat while we discuss. We have just about 15 more minutes to go, but we have touched most of the points. And now, what I would want us to think about moving forward is that you share one idea in the chat on how African-led innovations could look like in 2030. So think of 2030. What would innovation look like to you in 2030? I'm just going to post this again in the chat. What will African-led innovation look like to you in 2030? This will help us to share exactly, or to understand exactly how to mold or to create our innovations for Africa. Please put in French or in English. So share one idea. Just think of it. I mean, a lot of us have been having this. I mean, we are all innovators here. And I think in the discussions we had, we heard Yolande talk about how they innovated. We heard Ayafor talk about how they innovated. We heard James talk about how they innovated in development space. We also heard Merveille talk about how we innovated. And I'm assuming that we all will have ideas as per how we can innovate. So for the next I'm afraid just next 5 minutes, we would expect you to tell us what you think innovation will look like in 2030 for you. So I've shared my own how innovation will look like. Gloria, I know you are very active in research. We want to hear what will innovation in research look like in what you are doing. For some key persons like Damaris, I know that you are busy with Codesria and working on Made in Africa evaluation. Happy to know what you think that innovation will look like. So Ronald says a more deliberate and sustainable, locally driven interaction of indigenous knowledge and systems with evolving technologies such as AI. Wow, that's a good one. Innovations. Belinda, let's hear from you. Minga Mireille, let's hear from you. Ellis, let's hear from you. Berenice, let's hear from you. Zola, we are also happy to hear from you. Maureen, let's hear from you. Irene, let's hear from you. Very good one there from Berenice. While we are getting ready to round up, we have 2 more minutes, so you can throw, you can keep throwing in your ideas. And I think Charity, we can give them some liberty to add a second idea, since we still have some 2 minutes. You can, and I think I'll, as moderator, I'll give you a second idea opportunity. So throw in a second idea. Let's gather more ideas. We have 2 minutes to go while we wait. I'll also just be asking the chairperson to be getting ready to close. Okay, so thanks so much for all these contributions, and you could, if you have more ideas, you can keep throwing it in till 15 minutes past the hour. But I'll be handing over now to Kirchuffs to give us the closing remarks. Thanks. Over to you, Kirchuffs.
All right, thank you very much, Patrick. And amazing contributions there from the different speakers. James, thank you for sharing with us what Sightsavers has been doing, the beautiful contributions you've made to EIDM on the continent, drawing from the manifesto, as well as all eBASE colleagues, Yolande, Ayafor, Merveille, as you shared from the other works that the group has been doing as well, and to Ruth also for sharing with us via video what their live partnership has also been up to. As we noticed, the session was recorded, and so the team is going to make the recording available online, as well as a blog post from this session. So these two are basically to help us continue with the discussions, post the session. If there are some other innovations you think you would want to highlight, profile, or you want to answer the questions that were asked to the audience post session, feel free to do that using the link that the resources will be posted under, mainly on the Africa Evidence Network's LinkedIn page. So thank you all for making time once again. We're happy taking the conversation over from here. And I think it's been mentioned already, we are anticipating this the challenge actually applications close sometime end of this month. Let me just confirm. Is it the 29th? Yes,
29th of May.
Yes, of May. So let's do well. If we know some organizations, some partners that you think are doing some amazing work that can be profiled for our shared learning, let's share the challenge link with them. It's for our collective growth. So thank you all once again, and we wish you a beautiful day ahead. It's bye for now.